My buddy, when he ran for Congress. He went all over the vast CD3 campaigning, down to Nogales, over to Yuma, South Tucson, of course.
West Valley.
And we ran into the Grahova machine, but he's still staying very active in politics. He's helping find new candidates, and he has an organization. What's the organization called?
Vecinos en el Barrio.
Okay.
Your neighbors in the neighborhood. Tus Vecinos en el Barrio. Your neighbors in the neighborhood.
Yeah, so he's looking for people for the school board, and for, I think some of the group are interested in that too, because we want to get candidates. And we did just have somebody sign up for the Senate. That woman, Watsack, what's her name, that's going to run? Justine Watsack is going to run for the LD10 Senate seat. And so LD10 is staffed, I think, with two representatives and her, but we need more. So Nick was also prominent in business. He ran the Fox Theater rebuilding, right?
Yes, I still serve on the Fox Theater. Been on there since 2013.
So he's going to be talking on American values and American unity, and he's a man of the people.
Thanks, Bill. There's a few people in the room that witnessed my first oratorial experience when I launched my campaign for Congress in January of 2018. And I hope that my performance today is a lot better than it was on that particular day. Because if you don't learn something and improve, you're not doing the right things. What strikes me as we gather, one of the things, of course, is that it's to me a nice compliment that you all show up to hear somebody talking, and a lot of times they're good, and a lot of times they're not so good. What we are facing is a product of what has happened in the past, but what is going to happen in the future is going to be a function of what we decide to do today. So to begin, I want to give you a little bit about my background so that you know that really, as a friend of mine called me today, and Bill just did, a man of the people. I started my journey in Nogales, Arizona, where I was born. My parents are from Mexico, and my dad gave up his Mexican citizenship to join the United States Army in World War II. We taught my mom how to speak English because she didn't speak English, and we spoke Spanish growing up, and then we also spoke English, so we were teaching our mother how to speak English. And I grew up on the Tohono O'odham and White Mountain Apache Indian reservations, and so that upbringing gave me the blessing that I was able to experience the Mexican culture on the border and the Native American culture on two different reservations. And usually where we lived, we were considered a minority. Even the white people and the Indians outnumbered us Mexicans. So I know what it feels like to be a minority. In 2018, I won the Republican nomination for Congress in Congressional District 3. And part of what is driving me is, and why I'm wanting to be an activist, and my desire to have a positive effect on the future of our community and our country, and that is that we're losing our American beliefs. Now, it's not often that I can give credit to one of my mentors, Dr. McElroy. But the loss of our American beliefs is something that is being overlooked today in our country. And it's kind of like that cry in the wilderness that people aren't listening to. And Dr. McElroy in his book talks about this quite a bit. just to give you a little bit more background, I have a real good friend named Dan, and he speaks internationally, and he'd be considered a high-level corporate executive. And we've been friends for over 40 years, so when we meet, we usually talk about different subjects. We get into depth on these subjects, and one of the areas that we talk about is success and leadership. And from his talks, he talks about that to grow, as you grow as a person, you grow as a leader. But to grow as a leader, you need to know what your personal make or break is. Now, sometimes I feel like Don Quixote, because my personal make or break goal is the desire to preserve the freedoms and opportunities that we inherited, that our parents left us. Now, I have 7 grandchildren and 3 children, and I feel that the biggest, greatest legacy I can leave them is to leave our country in a better condition than the way it is today. So let's go over where we are today. When you think about it, our country is not the same country that our parents left us. We seem to be a country that is so divided that one party cannot agree on who runs the country. It seems that way, really, doesn't it? The Democrats and the deep state are pursuing a permanent impeachment strategy and not accepting Donald Trump as president. Some of you may have heard of the late Dr. Jack DeVere Minzy. He wrote a book called The Civil War, How the Civil War Happens. And he says basically this happens when two or more sides disagree on who runs the country. And they can't settle the question through elections. When you hate each other but accept your election results, you have a country. When you stop accepting election results of the last election, really what you have is a countdown to civil war. Have the Democrats accepted the results of the last election? No. It doesn't appear that they have. Just look at their never-ending impeachment agenda. The progressive left wants to transform our country. Do you know what our country's going to look like when they take over?
Venezuela.
Cuba.
It's going to be a country with less freedom, less opportunities, less happiness, and more poor people. I don't like this picture, and that's not what I want to leave my children and grandchildren. The movement that they foster divides our country into factions. And this movement is a very destructive movement. It's not very constructive. The left spouts politically correct slogans that pander to the lowest forms of human instinct. If it feels good, just do it. How did our culture change? We used to say, I disapprove of what you say, but I will defend your right to say it to death. Now we are told, I disapprove of what you say, therefore you can't say it. Does this seem right to you? This is not what Americans believe. Let's review our American beliefs. And I picked this up from one of my friends here recently, Angel, he's right over here. These beliefs are actually human beliefs. They're not just American beliefs, but I believe the whole world shares these beliefs. I want you to ask your friends, and I have a list of questions here that you can ask your friends, and ask if they agree or disagree with these beliefs. And if they disagree, what do they believe in? Let's start with the belief to work hard and get a good education. What's happened to this belief? Is it that people are telling us and our children that there are no opportunities because of inequality and racism in our country? How about the belief in doing what is right and obeying the laws of God and country? What has happened to this belief? How is it that attacking our Judeo-Christian organizations is becoming more and more accepted? How about the belief that our country is a land of opportunity? Where is the noise coming from that the only opportunities available are through more government control to make things fair? What happened to the many opportunities available to us if we worked hard? Most of the so-called leaders in this country have benefited by living in this country. Yet they want to change our country and solve the problems that do not exist. What happened to the belief that everyone must work? Many politicians now are pushing for more government programs that serve as crutches and incentivize people to not work. These political leaders are preying on people's insecurities. They pander to people by making unsustainable promises just to gain their votes to keep power. What happened to the belief that every person is responsible to their own well-being? Politicians are telling people to feel responsible, not feel responsible for their own well-being, that government or the society is going to take care of them. These political leaders tell people they are victims. What kind of character is being developed in our country because of this? What happened to the belief in a smaller government? The left believes in big government where they have more control over us, since they are so much smarter than we the people. What happened to the belief that opportunities must be imagined rather than created by the government? The left believes only government can provide opportunities. What happened to the belief that society is a collection of individuals? The left believes society is a collection of classes. What happened to the belief that every person's success improves society? The left believes that a person's success must be shared. What happened to the belief that America has been blessed and therefore been successful? The left just wants to punish our country for being successful. What happened to the belief that doing right is necessary for happiness? The left believes that happiness depends on your advancing their ideological goals. What happened to the belief that all people have the same rights? The left believes that differentiated groups have more rights than individual people. Show me where the ideas proposed by the left have actually worked. Our country's American foundation was laid over 200 years ago. It's been built over many generations, and it can be destroyed in only one generation. Think about that. Actions should be based on the best outcomes for our country, and many of the actions of the left are driven by ideology and not by common sense. And we suffer the outcomes of these dumb decisions. For example, there's a huge student loan debt owed by current students and former college students. When you think about it, this huge debt was facilitated by the changes in the student loan program under former President Barack Obama when he took over the student loan program. Now Bernie Sanders wants to forgive all of the student loans. How much common sense was used in making these decisions, and are they driven by a pandering just for votes? Now, when you think about it, the left is using 4 basic tactics to attack our values and our American cultural beliefs. Number 1, they're creating chaos in our country, such as the ongoing impeachment. 2, they're gaining control through any means possible, even if it is illegal. Look at all the illegal activities that the government deep state operatives are conducting. They enforce compliance on the population of their ideology. And 4, they conquer and eliminate any opposition. This destruction of our American beliefs started with the political correctness movement. That's a quote from Dr. McElroy's book. The left began by changing the meaning of words and creating differentiated groups. When you think about it, the left has too much undue influence in our schools. The controls allow them to influence many political outcomes. Especially in our schools today, they're pushing an agenda of political indoctrination instead of policies that will improve our children's basic skills in reading, writing, and arithmetic. What beliefs will be our children's heritage? Will their beliefs be those indoctrinated by our public schools? Will their beliefs be pushed by the propaganda of the left? We know that our children are being indoctrinated in many of our public schools. There is a political agenda at work that doesn't belong in our schools. We know, for example, that some school districts, including TUSD, do not follow statutory and policy restrictions in the classroom. I believe the left only cares about advancing their ideological agenda regardless of the outcome. What are your beliefs? Do you share these beliefs? Do most of your friends, relatives, and neighbors share these beliefs? Isn't it time to find common ground with our neighbors? Isn't it time to renew our commitment to these beliefs? The beliefs that have made and make our country a success. The beliefs to make us proud of the country that we're going to be leaving to our children. I'm asking you to let the belief in our values in our country start with you. If you believe, as I do, that our culture and our American beliefs are worth saving, if you believe that freedom improves lives, then join me in helping to leave a better legacy for our children and grandchildren. It can start with just a few people in this room. To all of you here in this room, what are you here for? Are you here because you have nothing better to do? Or do you want to make a difference regardless of how small? One person can make a difference. I don't care how young you are, or how old you are, or how busy you are. If you can drive a car safely and you're not drooling, you can help us find people to run for office. You can help us by knocking on doors to pass out information. If you can't walk, you can help drive volunteers around the neighborhoods. You can help by giving us a few hours between now and the election. You can help make a difference. Thank you. I have